It can be intimidating to attend a small group for the very first time. But if your group is going to be invitational, as we encourage you to, then new people are going to be dropping in. The question is, what are they going to experience when they arrive? And so we want to encourage you that your group can be an amazing environment for people to take a next step toward Jesus. And so we encourage you to prepare your group in advance to help make your group be welcoming to guests. And here's a few principles to keep in mind. Number one is remove distractions. Think in advance of things that might make guests feel awkward if it's the first time in your home. For example, if you have a cat or a dog, put it outside or put it in another room because some people might be allergic and others are just uncomfortable with animals. If you have a television on, turn it off. Don't have that background noise blaring. Make sure you tidy up, clean things up in the house. And in the bathroom, make sure that there's toilet paper and soap. Just look at things that might be off-putting or might be awkward for your guests the first time they walk in the door and remove those distractions. And then the second thing is to offer refreshments. Food makes people feel welcome. Food gives people a way to interact easily with other people. And so offer some simple refreshments, include some healthy choices. You don't need to go super expensive or you don't need to just be elaborate, but just something simple that will help people feel welcome and easy to talk to other people. And then the third tip is simply be friendly. Have you ever noticed how we'll often walk past a guest like they're not even there in order to talk to an old friend? And so when a guest comes, acknowledge them right away with a greeting. Make eye contact, smile, ask some simple, non-threatening questions to break the ice. Things like, where do you live? Where do you work? Tell me about your family. And then introduce your new guest to other people in the room. But the thing is, don't leave anybody hanging alone. Make sure they have someone to talk to. A person will not come back if they don't feel like the group was friendly to them. And then next, make sure to give people some space. You see, in a new setting, people need time to check things out and to get comfortable. So don't be pushy about anything. And don't ask questions that would be embarrassing to your guest or that might seem to be too personal. Stay away from delicate subjects like politics. And don't make your guests feel like they're being pigeonholed or being put in the spotlight. Just give people time and space to get comfortable in the group. And then as the group proceeds, it's really important that you explain what's going on. Every group has its normal way of doing things. And these may seem obvious to the group members who've been doing that way for a while, but don't assume that your guest will understand what's going on or what comes next. So take a minute to explain how your group does things. And at key transitions, stop and explain what you're going to do next and why and how it works. So at the beginning, you might say, hey, we're just going to snack and chat together for a few minutes. And then after a little bit, we're going to sit down and start our formal Bible study. Or later on, you might say, hey, we're going to pray now and we're going to collect prayer requests from people, but you don't feel like you need to say anything and you certainly don't need to pray out loud if you don't feel comfortable doing that. The point is, as you explain as you go, then your guest will feel like they're not just maybe confused or not left in the dark about what your group is doing. Now, here's another thing, and it should be obvious, but it's not obvious to everybody. Don't be weird. Some things that small groups do just make newcomers feel weird. And if you want to explore this more, we've got another post on this called How to Avoid Being a Weird Small Group. It goes into detail of some things that groups might do and really shouldn't do. But in a nutshell, don't put people on the spot. Don't assume familiarity. Don't assume they think like you do. And so be careful about what you do and think about it from the point of view of the newcomer. And that really leads to this underlying principle, and that is think about how you would feel if you were the newcomer. We all find ourselves in an unfamiliar place from time to time, so try to think back to the last time that you were there. Maybe it was when you were taking your child to sports sign-up for the very first time and you weren't sure what line to get in. Or you went to a new doctor's office for the first time and it wasn't really clear how or where to check in. And so think about the kind of help that you wish you had had in that moment and also the things that people did that were not helpful to you. In other words, try to put yourself in your guest's shoes. And then one last thing, invite people back. At the end of the meeting, make sure your guests know that you were glad that they came and that you want to have them come back again.